Alright guys, so for the longest time you guys have been requesting an up-to-date video on my brand new settings, sensitivities, and loadouts that are by far the best for the season 9 update. So that is what I'm going to be doing today for you guys, because you guys definitely deserve it. So if you guys do enjoy this video, if you guys are new, make sure you guys drop that like, comment, and sub, and let's get straight into the action. The first thing we're going to be doing is starting off with the setups, and keep in mind this is not me ranking the guns from best to worst. It's basically telling you guys what my guns are in my armory. So up on number 1 we do have the ICR. It is one of my favorite ARs, plus it is a 3-shot. Obviously I'm going to be previewing some gameplay in the background as I go up with these weapons, and a setup will be explained as well. So as you guys can see, it is very high in mobility and the accuracy is pretty good. It is actually one of those hybrid ARs which I consider to be an SMG as well if you know how to play it right, and because of that it is on my list of one of the best guns for me to use in season 9 of Call of Duty Mobile. Now up on number 2 we obviously have the Kilo 141. Now this weapon right here, you guys already know, has been at the top of the top 5 list for the longest time now. I think it's been like 6 to 7 months now. Not only is this weapon good for close, mid, and long range, it's great for lane holding, great for holding those headies, and it's great for mapping anybody you want in any map you want to choose from. Now the third weapon we have on our list is the Type 25. I actually made a video on this very recently. It is another AR that is great for mobility and mapping people across the maps, but in my opinion it is not really that great for long range. It's mainly made for close to mid range. So if you guys want to have a AR that is good for that and good for your playstyle, this is the weapon to use, especially this variant, the Horseman's Pick. I absolutely love this one. It's probably one of my favorite ones besides the magnetic engine. And let's get on into number 4. Now up on number 4 we do have the OG number 1 SMG. It is the CBR4. Definitely up there at being one of my favorite SMG metas besides the MX9 obviously. This weapon right here also got another buff in season 9, and because of that it is an honorable mention when I did make my top 5 video, but unfortunately it is not the best SMG. The Switchblade is still the number 1 SMG, but I'm glad that they're starting to buff this one because I'm starting to have a little bit more fun to use this against other people, and it is actually pretty good in terms of going up against those Kilos, Krigs, and Switchblades whenever it comes to certain maps. Now up at number 5 we do have the MX9, another one of my favorite SMG metas, if not the favorite one for myself. This is one I believe to be in my prime. It is definitely one of the fastest mobility SMGs back then, especially if you did run some sort of skulker prick with it. If you guys are still getting bored of this meta, you guys can use this weapon. It is still going to be pretty good, especially against those SMGs such as the CBR and Switchblade. But I can't promise you that you're going to win every gunfight because the Switchblade is definitely far superior than the MX9. Up on number 6 we do have the number 1 LMG in the game, and that is the Holger. I've actually started to see a lot of this in the competitive scene and rank a lot more since it's gotten its buff. And I'm not gonna lie, it is the definition of pay to win, especially if you do have this variant known as the Dark Frontier. And it is also the definition of spray and pray, because no matter what, if you guys do use a bunch of attachments that are good for wall banging and the 100 mag, you can do whatever you want and pre-aim any single corner and get those kills that you want. On number 7 we do have the Swordfish. This is actually a pretty fun weapon, although I wouldn't say it is that great to use if you are going to be going up against those sweaties with the Kilo, Krigs, and Switchblade. You'll definitely get gunned down, but it is still a pretty fun weapon to use if you guys are getting bored of the current meta, and if you guys want to lane hold and hold those headies and one burst people because of how satisfying it is, this is the right weapon to go to. One thing I do want to say is that it is optional to use the Halberg mag. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. I haven't used this weapon in a while, but you guys can also use a different mag of your choice. But that is the number 7 weapon of this armory, and let's get on into number 8. Up on number 8 we do have the number 1 marksman rifle in COD Mobile. It is the SKS. Now I've actually been starting to use this a lot more recently in both ranked and competitive to see if my playstyle fits it, and long story short, my playstyle isn't fit for this weapon at all, but it is still really good for those people who like playing those long holding heady playstyles along with those camping playstyles. Now personally that's not for me because I like pushing and I like using SMGs while being aggressive, So that is unfortunately not the case, but if you guys do want it, here's the setup right here. Now up at number 9, we have one of the newest additions to Call of Duty Mobile, and that is the Krig 6. And let me tell you guys this right now, the mythic skin on this thing is absolutely beautiful. If you guys don't know, it actually came from Cold War. It's basically Call of Duty for console and PC, and the whole thing came from that. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I didn't know if I was gonna like it or not because it was a copy and paste from Cold War, but after looking into it and seeing how it's quite different than the version of Cold War, it's pretty good. And the red dot sight is pay to win, so if you guys want to have an advantage while using the Krig 6, use this weapon. Plus it is a 3-shot, which means it is definitely up there on the top 5 list for the best guns of Season 9. Now last but not least, we do have the #1 SMG in Call of Duty Mobile, and that is the Switchblade X9. One of my favorite SMGs for this season, obviously because it is meta. Plus it is great for mobility and close to mid-range, which is not what we really see a lot whenever it comes to these new SMGs, especially if we go back and look into the Mac 10. But this is definitely going to be the one gun a bunch of people use in the upcoming Stage 5 World Championship, because this is probably going to be the same meta that is going to be used in Stage 5, which is actually starting in December. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure to find out some more info on that very soon. But without further ado, those are my 10 loadouts for Season 9 of Call of Duty Mobile. And now that we're done with that, let's get on right into our settings and sensitivities. Alright guys, so we're now into our controls menu. And before I do continue on with my HUD, I'm going to be showing you guys something real quick. So as you guys can see, I'm on advanced mode. And when I click the gear icon right here, you guys can see I use all hipfire. I do not use ADS, which means I manually have to aim and fire by myself. CODM doesn't do it for me, so that's that. And then when I go to my custom layout, as you guys can see, this is my HUD right here. I actually do use a 4-finger claw, which means I use 4 fingers, 2 index fingers, and 2 thumbs. Up on the screen right now, I'm also going to be providing you guys with a color coordinated HUD layout of where it does say where I place what. One thing to take away from this is the fact that this C4 button right here is the only thing that's not included in this picture, because the picture is an old picture and the C4 thing just came out recently. So I'd recommend putting it right here on the screen. But as you guys can see, this is where I do everything. This is where the magic starts. I do use one firing button, reload button on the bottom right, movement pad on the bottom left. The top right, I have my scoping button and my crouch and jump button. And at the bottom, you guys can see all the other buttons that require me to switch my weapons, use my score streaks, use my nades, etc. We are now going to be going into our basic settings. Now, obviously, I'm not going into these things one by one. I'm just going to be scrolling down, and you guys can feel free to take a picture and do whatever if you guys would like. So as you guys can see, those are my basic settings. One thing I am going to be doing is talking to you guys about damage number. So basically what damage number does is it basically tells you how much you hit someone for whenever you do shoot their body. A small number appears on your screen. I'm going to be showing an example in a second. As you guys can see in this video, it basically shows you a number of how much damage you have put towards an individual. And the thing that's good about this is because if I decide to throw a nade across the map, I will know exactly how much it hits them for, and I will get some info on their location, which is going to be good for me because I can start wallbanging them or give a call out to my teammate. As I go down the list, as you guys can see, those are the settings I use right there. Always sprint is at 81, which means it is good for me not to put too much pressure onto my movement pad, and if I do, I end up running, which is not good because it could reveal my position in S and D. Gyroscope I do have off. I know you guys love gyroscope, at least some of you guys do, and I was planning on making a video on me using gyroscope, so if you guys are interested in that, let me know down in the comments. It may or may not come very soon. And then these are the two last things that are very important in the basic settings. It is the camera FOV and the FOV itself. Now, long story short, the lower the FOV, the bigger and fatter the enemies appear, which is good if you want to have great aim. But the only disadvantage of this is that you won't be able to see as far out with your device. But the higher your FOV, the further out you'll be able to see. But the only downside is that you won't be able to hit targets as easily because they're going to appear skinnier and you guys might have to track a lot better. Now, I like a mix of both, which is why I put it in between the 50 and 90 range. I know it's not exactly 50% of both of those numbers, but 79 is the perfect number for me. And for the FOV FPP, that basically shows you when you do aim in how far in or far out you're going to be wanting to see your opponents. Obviously, that will be provided as well. And besides that, the marker settings and minimap settings are all personal preference. It doesn't really matter too much for me. But now that we're done with the basic settings, we're going to be going ahead into our audios and graphics. Now, for the audios and graphics, I've actually started to use low quality and ultra FPS. That is what gives me the 144 to 165 frames per second, which is great for me because I do play competitive if my device is actually good for using these settings. And besides that, these are everything else that I use. I don't really know if it matters or not. And then audio, I don't know why you guys are so interested in seeing my audio all the time whenever I do stream or make videos, but as you guys can see, everything's at 100. And then the effects, this is obviously personal preference, but I use tactical effect and I use pink because the color pink is very good for the human eye, and it kind of allows me to know where I'm shooting because it is eye-catching. And then for get hit hint, I do use green because it is also a great color for the human eye to catch. And then going into our sensitivity, we do have speed acceleration at 41. Keep in mind, I do actually use finger sleeves. They are right here, which is why I use slow sensitivity, because the friction on my fingers are going to be outright smooth at anytime I use them. And one key thing to come out of this is the lower the sensitivity, the easier to track, which is why I use it. And as I go down, you guys can see these are the sensitivities I use. Like I said before, they are relatively very low, so keep that in mind. And then my firing sensitivity is also very low. You guys may not like it, so if you guys want, you guys can play around with it and see which one fits your play style the most. But that is going to be the end of the video for the best settings and best loadouts of Season 9. If you guys did enjoy that video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and sub, and let's get right into the next video whenever you guys see me next. Peace.